The transport ship landed on Kepler 442b with a gentle thud that shook the cargo bay. Hyun-woo Kim pressed his face against the small window and watched thick clouds roll across purple skies. Rain was already falling on the landing pad, creating small rivers that flowed toward the colony buildings in the distance. "Welcome to New Haven," announced the ship's captain over the speakers. "Please gather your belongings and prepare for departure. Remember to follow all colony safety protocols." Hyun-woo grabbed his equipment cases and met his team near the exit ramp. So-Young Park was checking her microscope cases for the third time, while Jin-Ho Lee studied readings on his atmospheric scanner. They had traveled 6 months through space to reach this new world, and Hyun-woo felt both excited and nervous. "The TAT's air composition looks good," Jin-Ho said, reading from his device. "Oxygen levels are perfect for humans. Temperature is warm but comfortable. And look at all that rain." The 3 humans stepped out of the ship and immediately got soaked. The rain felt different from Earth rain. It was warmer and seemed to shimmer slightly as it fell. Hyun-woo noticed it had a strange smell, almost metallic, but sweet. A tall figure approached them through the rain. The being was over 8 feet tall and looked like it was made of living crystal. Its body reflected the light in beautiful patterns, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans. I am Silthara, of the Vailani people. We are honored to have your species join our colony." The crystal being gestured toward the settlement. "Please come inside where it is dry." They followed Silthara through the rain to a large building made of what looked like grown coral. Inside, the walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers. Several other aliens were waiting to meet them. A shorter, rock-like being stepped forward. His body looked like it was carved from granite, with moss growing in the cracks. "I am Tomdar, chief engineer of the Rakari. We built most of the structures you see here." The third alien looked somewhat like a dolphin that could walk on land. Her skin was smooth and blue-gray, and she had large, intelligent eyes. "And I am Aqualen of the Nethys. I serve as the colony's healer." Hyun-woo introduced his team and explained their mission. "We're here to study the environment and help build safe living spaces for humans. I specialize in water and air systems." Silthara's crystal body chimed softly. "Ah, you work with the life-giving elements. How wonderful. This world provides everything we need. The rain here is especially pure and nourishing." "The rain?" So-Young asked. "You use the rainwater directly?" "Of course," Aqualen replied. "Rain is nature's gift. It falls from the sky already perfect for drinking, washing, and growing crops. We have never needed to change it in any way." Tomdar nodded, small pebbles falling from his rocky head. "On all our worlds, rain has always been pure. It is one of the constants of the universe. Clean water falls from above, and we use it as the gods intended." Hyun-woo felt a strange uneasiness in his stomach. On Earth, drinking rainwater without treatment was dangerous. It could carry diseases, pollutants, and parasites. Humans had learned this lesson the hard way over thousands of years. "Don't you worry about contamination?" he asked carefully. "On Earth, We always filter and treat water before using it." The three aliens looked at each other and made sounds that Yunwu realized were polite laughter. "Humans and their caution," Silthara said kindly. "We have heard about your species' tendency to overcomplicate simple things. Rain is rain, my friend. It cannot be improved upon." "We appreciate your concern," Aqualen added. "But our people have been drinking rainwater for thousands of generations. If there were any danger, we would know by now." Jin-Ho pulled out his scanner and took readings of the air and rain coming through the open doorway. The numbers looked normal, but something about them bothered him. There were tiny particles in the rain that his equipment could barely detect. "Could we at least test some samples?" So Young asked, "just to understand the local ecosystem better. It would help us learn how Earth life might adapt here." "Of course," Tomdar said. "Test all you wish. But you will find that this world's rain is as pure as any in the galaxy. Over the next few hours." The aliens showed them around the colony. New Haven was impressive. The Vailani had grown crystal towers that captured and focused sunlight. The Rakari had built strong stone bridges and platforms that seemed to merge naturally with the landscape. The Nethys had created beautiful pools and waterways that flowed throughout the settlement. Everywhere they went, aliens were collecting rainwater in open containers. Children of various species played in the rain without any protection. Adults drank directly from puddles and streams. Everyone seemed healthy and happy. But Hyunwoo could not shake his worry. He watched an alien child cup her hands to catch rainwater and drink it immediately. On Earth, that would be a quick way to get very sick. "They've been doing this for thousands of years," So Young whispered to him. "Maybe their biology is different. Maybe they can handle things that would hurt humans." "Maybe," Hyunwoo replied. "But I still want to build our own water treatment system for the human settlement." "Is that really necessary?" Jin-Ho asked. "The aliens seem fine, and it would be a lot of work." Hyunwoo looked out at the rain falling on the alien city. Something deep in his human instincts told him that trusting untreated water was a mistake, no matter how pure it looked. "Better safe than sorry," he said. "That's how humans have survived this long." That evening, they were given quarters in the human section of the colony. It was smaller than the alien areas, but comfortable. Hyunwoo set up his equipment and began analyzing the rainwater samples they had collected. The basic tests showed water that was cleaner than most tap water on Earth. The pH was perfect, mineral content was good, and there were no obvious signs of harmful bacteria or chemicals. But when So Young looked at the samples under her high-powered microscope, she found something strange. There were microscopic structures in the water that she had never seen before. They were incredibly tiny and seemed to be moving, but she could not tell if they were alive or just floating particles. "What do you think these are?" she asked Hyunwoo, adjusting the microscope focus. Hyunwoo looked through the eyepiece and frowned. "I have no idea. They're too small to identify clearly. Could be minerals, could be microorganisms, could be something else entirely." "Should we ask the aliens about them?" "Let's do more tests first. Maybe we're seeing things that aren't really there." Outside their window, rain continued to fall on New Haven. Aliens moved through the streets, drinking the water and bathing in it without any concern. They had been doing this for thousands of years on countless worlds, but Hyunwoo had decided. Tomorrow he would start building a water treatment system for the humans. His people had not survived on a dangerous planet like Earth by taking chances with their water supply. Even if the aliens thought he was being paranoid, even if the water looked perfectly safe, he would filter it anyway. That was the human way. Some instincts were worth keeping, no matter how far from home you traveled. The next morning, Hyunwoo woke to the sound of rain pattering against his window. He had barely slept, his mind turning over the strange particles So Young had found in the water samples. Every instinct he had developed as an environmental engineer was screaming that something was wrong. After breakfast, he gathered his team in their small laboratory space. "I've made a decision. We're building a complete water treatment system for the human quarters." Jin-ho looked up from his atmospheric readings. "Even though the aliens say the water is safe?" "Especially because they say it's safe," Hyunwoo replied. "Think about it. Humans learned to boil water, filter it, and treat it because we got sick when we didn't. These aliens never learned those lessons. That could mean their biology is different, or it could mean something else entirely." "So," Young nodded slowly. "The microscopic structures I found yesterday are still bothering me. I want to run more tests, but I'd feel better knowing our drinking water is properly filtered." "What kind of system are you thinking?" Jin-ho asked. Hyunwoo spread out blueprints on the table. "Multi-stage filtration. We'll start with basic sediment filters, then activated carbon, then ceramic filters for bacteria and parasites. After that, UV sterilization, and finally reverse osmosis for anything that's left." "That's a lot of equipment," So Young said. "The aliens are going to think we're crazy. Let them think that. Better crazy and healthy than trusting and sick." They spent the morning gathering materials from their supply crates and the colony's general storage. Word of their project spread quickly through New Haven. By afternoon, they had drawn a small crowd of curious aliens. Kirneth, a Velani engineer with crystal formations that sparkled like diamonds, watched them install the first filter housing. "Fascinating. You are rebuilding what nature already perfected." "We're just being careful," Hyunwoo said, tightening a pipe connection. "On Earth, we learned that water can carry diseases even when it looks clean. But surely you can tell by taste if water is bad," Kirneth said. "All species have this ability." So Young looked up from the microscope where she was examining more water samples. "Not always. Some of the most dangerous things in water have no taste or smell. They're invisible and silent until they make you sick." More aliens gathered to watch the humans work. Tomdar brought several Rokari engineers who seemed puzzled by the complex system taking shape. "In all our travels across the galaxy," Tomdar said, "we have never seen beings try to improve upon rain. You humans have a strange relationship with the natural world." "Maybe," Hyunwoo admitted, connecting the UV sterilization unit. "But this strange relationship has kept us alive. Earth is not a gentle planet. It taught us to be suspicious of things that seemed too good to be true." Aqualin approached with several young Nethys who were studying to be healers. "We understand caution in medicine," she said, "but water is not medicine. It is simply water." On Earth, bad water has killed more humans than wars, So Young explained. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, parasites, all from water that looked perfectly clean. The aliens exchanged glances. Silthera spoke for them all. "Perhaps your world was unusually dangerous. The words you speak, these diseases, we do not know them. They do not exist in our experience." Jin-Ho paused in his work calibrating sensors. "That's actually interesting. You've never encountered waterborne diseases?" "Never," Aqua-Len confirmed. "Water gives life. It does not take it away." As the day wore on, more aliens came to watch the humans build their filtration system. Some seemed amused, others confused, but all were polite about what they clearly saw as an unnecessary project. "If this makes you feel safer, then you should do it," Silthera said. "Every species has its own ways of surviving." By evening, they had most of the system installed. Water from the rain collectors would pass through 6 different treatment stages before reaching the human quarters. Hyunwoo ran the first test batch and smiled as clean, clear water flowed from the final tap. "How does it taste?" So Young asked. Hyunwoo took a careful sip. "Like water should taste, clean with no aftertaste or strange flavors." Jin-Ho tried it next. "It's good. Actually, it tastes better than the samples we tried yesterday. That's because we removed whatever those microscopic particles were," So Young said. "I still want to figure out what they are." That night, while the aliens of New Haven continued to drink rainwater directly from the sky, the 3 humans drank filtered water and felt oddly relieved. It was probably unnecessary caution, but caution had served humanity well. The next few days brought more rain and more curious visitors. A group of young aliens from various species came to study the human water system for a school project. "Why do you think the water might hurt you?" asked a young Vailani whose crystals were still growing. "We don't know that it will," Hyunwoo explained. "But humans have learned to prepare for dangers we can't see. It's better to be safe and wrong than sorry and sick." "But how do you know when you are safe enough?" asked a small Rokari child. "If you filter everything, how do you know what is really dangerous?" It was a good question. Hyunwoo thought about it while adjusting the system's flow rate. "I guess we don't always know, but we've learned that some risks aren't worth taking, especially when being careful is easy." So Young had been studying the filtered water under her microscope for several days. The strange particles that appeared in the raw rainwater were completely gone after treatment. Whatever they were, the human filtration system removed them effectively. She had also been testing the health of small earth plants they had brought with them. Plants watered with filtered water grew normally, while those given raw rainwater showed strange growth patterns and discolored leaves. "The plants don't like something in the unfiltered water," she reported to her teammates. "I'm not sure what it is yet, but there's definitely something there that Earth life doesn't handle." "Well, have you told the aliens about this?" Jin-Ho asked. "I tried, but they think our plants are just adapting to a new world. They say their crops grow perfectly well with rainwater." Maybe their crops are different from ours, Yunwu suggested. Maybe they've adapted to whatever is in the water. Or maybe, So Young said quietly, whatever is in the water has adapted to them. That evening, as rain continued to fall on New Haven, the humans sat in their filtered air, filtered water laboratory and wondered if they were being foolishly paranoid or wisely cautious. Outside, aliens danced in the rain and drank from the sky. They seemed healthy and happy, as their people had been for thousands of years. But inside the human quarters, 3 Earth-born scientists felt the satisfaction of a job well done. Their water was clean, their air was filtered, and their plants were growing normally. It might be unnecessary. It might be overcomplicated. But it was human. And sometimes, being human meant trusting your instincts even when everyone else thought you were wrong. 2 weeks after installing their water filtration system, So Young made a discovery that changed everything. She had been running detailed tests on the microscopic particles found in the rainwater, using the most powerful equipment they had brought. From Earth, Yunwu, Jinho, you need to see this, she called from her microscope station. Her voice was tight with excitement and worry. The 2 men hurried over to where So Young was adjusting her electron microscope. On the screen, they could see structures that looked almost like tiny machines. They were incredibly small but clearly organized and complex. What are we looking at? Yunwu asked. I think they're alive, So Young said. Watch this. She adjusted the focus and zoomed in further. The structures seemed to be moving in coordinated patterns, almost like they were communicating with each other. They look like parasites, Jinho said, but unlike any I've ever seen. So Young nodded grimly. That's what I was thinking. I've been calling them pluvial symbionts because they come with the rain. But here's the really disturbing part. I found them in tissue samples from the aliens. What do you mean? Hyunwoo asked. Remember when Aqualen offered to let me take some harmless samples for my research? I found these same organisms throughout her nervous system. Not just a few, billions of them. The 3 humans stared at the microscope screen in silence. The implications were staggering. Are they making the aliens sick? Jinho asked. That's what I can't figure out, So Young replied. The aliens seem perfectly healthy. In fact, they seem healthier than they should be. Their reaction times are faster than expected, their memory seems perfect, and they never seem to get tired. Maybe the organisms are actually helping them, Hyunwoo suggested. Maybe, but I tested samples from all 3 species, Vailani, Rokari, and Nethys. Every single alien I tested has these things living in their brains and nervous systems. So Young pulled up more images on her computer. I also found something else. These organisms aren't exactly the same in each species. They've adapted to their hosts, but they share the same basic structure. Have you told any of the aliens about this? Hyunwoo asked. I tried talking to Aqualen about it yesterday. She said the organisms have been part of their biology for thousands of generations. She called them neural symbionts and said they help with memory and processing information. Jinho frowned. If they're so helpful, why don't we have them? Because our filtration system removes them from our water supply, So Young explained. We've been drinking parasite-free water while every other species on this planet has been consuming billions of these things every day. Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. Show me the tissue samples again. So-young switched to a different slide. Under high magnification, they could see the alien tissue was completely infiltrated with the tiny organisms. They were everywhere, wrapped around nerve fibers, clustered in brain tissue, and flowing through the bloodstream. This is what normal looks like for them, So-young said. According to Aqualen, no member of their species has ever been born without these symbionts. They get them from drinking rainwater as children, and the organisms become part of their biology. But we don't have them, Jin-ho said, and we seem to be thinking clearly. That's what worries me, So-young replied. What if these organisms don't just help with memory and processing? What if they control it? The thought hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Hyun-woo sat down heavily in his chair. We need more information, he said finally. But we have to be careful how we get it. If these things are controlling the aliens, in some way, we can't let them know what we've discovered. Over the next few days, the humans conducted their research in secret. They collected more samples and ran more tests, always being careful to seem like they were just doing routine environmental studies. What they found was even more disturbing. The organisms showed signs of recent genetic changes as if they were adapting to something new. More troubling, they seemed to become more active when exposed to certain electromagnetic frequencies. Look at this, Jin-ho said, showing them readings from his atmospheric sensors. The quantum communication array we set up last week has been broadcasting at exactly the frequencies that activate these organisms. Are you saying our communication system is affecting the parasites? Hyun-woo asked. That's exactly what I'm saying. And if they're in the aliens' brains... So-young pulled up brain scan images she had taken of several alien volunteers. I've been monitoring neural activity in our alien friends. Their brain patterns have been changing since we activated the quantum array. Changing how? Becoming more synchronized, more uniform. It's like they're starting to think more alike than they used to. The humans exchanged worried glances. Something was happening to the aliens, and their human technology might be causing it. We need to talk to them, Hyun-woo said. We have to find out what they know about these organisms. But when they approached Silthara that evening, her response was not what they expected. Ah, you have discovered our neural partners, she said calmly. Yes, they have been with us for many generations. They help us think more clearly and remember more accurately. But don't you think it's strange that they're affecting your brain patterns? So-young asked. Silthara's crystal body chimed softly. Strange. No, it is natural. The symbionts help us process information more efficiently. They are a gift from the universe. A gift from where exactly? Hyun-woo pressed. From the rain, of course. They come with the water that falls from heaven. Every world we have settled has provided them to us. Every world? Jin-ho asked. You mean these organisms exist on all your homeworlds? Oh, yes, Tom Dar said, joining the conversation. They are one of the constants of life. Like gravity or light, they exist everywhere that life exists. But Hyun-woo was starting to see a pattern that the aliens could not. When did your people first discover space travel? Many thousands of years ago, Silthera replied. Though we seem to have lost much of that early knowledge, our ancestors were much more advanced than we are now. Lost the knowledge? How? The aliens looked at each other with expressions that seemed confused. We are not sure, Aqualen said slowly. There are periods in our history that are unclear. Times when our civilizations seemed to forget important technologies and had to rediscover them. So, Young felt her heart racing. How often did this happen? Every few thousand years, perhaps. It is one of the mysteries of our past. That night, the three humans sat in their laboratory and tried to make sense of what they had learned. The aliens had powerful parasites in their brains that came from rainwater. These parasites became active when exposed to advanced technology, and every few thousand years, alien civilizations seem to forget their most advanced knowledge. It's a control system, Hyun-woo said finally. These organisms prevent the aliens from advancing too far technologically. But why? Jinho asked. I don't know yet, but I think we're about to find out. Our quantum array is activating the parasites, and the aliens are already starting to think differently. And we're the only ones who are immune, So Young added, because we filter our water. Outside their window, rain continued to fall on New Haven, but now they knew it carried more than just water from the sky. Yoonji Choi had arrived on the morning transport with a group of xenobiology students, but she quickly became fascinated by the mystery the research team had uncovered. As a specialist in alien cultures and history, she threw herself into investigating the strange pattern of lost knowledge that seemed to plague every species in the galaxy. I've been going through the historical archives that each species brought to the colony, she told the research team over breakfast. The pattern is even stranger than you thought. She spread out her tablet, showing timeline charts for dozens of different civilizations. Look at this. The Vailani had faster-than-light travel 12,000 years ago, then somehow forgot how to build it. The Rokari developed quantum computing 8,000 years ago, then lost the technology completely. The Nethys created artificial intelligence. That was supposedly more advanced than anything we have today, but no trace of it remains. Hyun-woo studied the charts. Those are massive technological losses. How does an entire civilization forget something that important? That's what I've been trying to figure out, Yoonji replied. I've interviewed elderly members of each species, and they all tell similar stories. They call them the Great Forgettings, periods when their people seemed to lose interest in advanced technology and chose simpler ways of living. So Young looked up from her microscope where she was studying more parasite samples. Chose or were made to choose? That's the question, isn't it? Yoonji said. According to the stories, these weren't catastrophic events like wars or natural disasters. People just gradually stopped using their most advanced technologies and eventually forgot how they worked. Jin-ho pulled up his atmospheric readings from the past week. I've been tracking the electromagnetic activity since we activated our quantum communication array. The frequency patterns match energy signatures from those lost technologies you mentioned. You mean the same frequencies that activate the parasites in their brains, Hyun-woo said grimly. Yunji nodded. I think the parasites are triggered by advanced technology. When a civilization develops certain capabilities, the organisms in their brains activate and make them forget what they've learned. But why? So Young asked. What's the purpose? I might have an answer to that, Yunji said, pulling up another set of data. I've been analyzing atmospheric samples from archaeological sites on the aliens' homeworlds. The parasite concentrations in ancient layers tell a story. She showed them graphs displaying parasite activity over thousands of years. Every time a civilization reaches a certain technological threshold, parasite activity spikes dramatically. Then it drops back to normal levels, and the civilization regresses. It's like a reset button, Jin-Ho observed. Something keeps pressing. Reset every time they get too advanced. But who's pressing the button? Hyun-woo asked. Yunji hesitated before answering. I don't think it's a who. I think it's a what. These parasites aren't natural. They're too perfectly designed for their purpose. I think they're artificial biological agents. Created by whom? An ancient civilization that wanted to control galactic development. Maybe they were afraid of younger species becoming too powerful, so they created a biological system to keep them in check. So Young had been running new tests while they talked. I found something that supports that theory. The parasites have artificial genetic markers, sequences that don't exist in natural organisms. They were definitely engineered. By who, though? Hyun-woo pressed. The aliens don't have this kind of biotechnology. Maybe they did once, Yun-ji suggested. Maybe the parasites were created by one of the lost civilizations and then used to control all the others. That afternoon, they decided to test their theory by examining the colony's quantum communication array more closely. Jin-Ho had noticed that the parasites became more active whenever the array transmitted data to other star systems. What if the array is doing more than just sending messages? He suggested. What if it's broadcasting the activation signal to parasites on other worlds? They spent hours analyzing the transmission data and found that their communications were indeed carrying extra information. Complex patterns embedded in the quantum signals that matched the electromagnetic frequencies that activated the parasites. We've been accidentally triggering a galaxy-wide reset, Hyun-woo realized with horror. Every time we send a message to Earth or other colonies, we're activating parasites in alien brains across multiple star systems. We have to shut it down, So Young said. But then we'll lose contact with Earth and the other human colonies, Jin-Ho pointed out. Better than triggering a galactic memory wipe, Yunji replied. They were about to shut down the array when Aqualen approached their laboratory. Her usually calm demeanor seemed agitated, and her large eyes looked confused. I came to ask you about something strange, she said. I've been having trouble remembering certain things lately. Technical knowledge that I knew perfectly well last week seems unclear now. The humans exchanged worried glances. It was starting. What kind of technical knowledge? So Young asked gently. Medical procedures mostly. Advanced treatments that my people have used for generations. Yesterday I tried to operate our quantum healing device, and I couldn't remember how it worked. Have other members of your species reported similar problems? Hyun-woo asked. Yes, now that you mention it. Silthara said she's forgotten how to program the crystal communication networks. And Tom Dar told me he can't remember the engineering principles behind our gravity manipulators. Yunji pulled up her historical charts. Aqualen, I want to show you something. Do your people have any records of previous great forgettings? Of course. They happen every few thousand years. It's natural. Natural? Why do you think it's natural? Aqualen looked confused by the question. Because it always happens. When civilizations become too complex, they naturally choose simpler ways of living. But what if it's not a choice? So Young asked. What if something is making you forget? For a moment, Aqualen's expression cleared, as if she was seeing something for the first time. The neural symbionts, she whispered. They become more active when we develop certain technologies. You know about this? Hyunwoo asked. Some of us do, but we're not supposed to think about it. Every time someone starts to question the symbionts, they forget what they were questioning. Aqualen, listen to me carefully, Yunji said. The parasites in your brain are not natural. They were created by someone to control galactic civilizations. Every few thousand years, they activate and make entire species forget their most advanced knowledge. That's impossible, Aqualen said, but her voice lacked conviction. Our quantum array has been triggering them, Jin-Ho explained. That's why you and the others are starting to forget things. Aqualen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. There are stories, old stories that most of us dismiss as myths. They speak of the gardeners, ancient beings who tended the galaxy like a garden, pruning back civilizations that grew too large. The gardeners? Yunji leaned forward eagerly. According to the myths, they created biological tools to manage younger species. They believed that advanced technology would lead to destruction, so they limited how far any civilization could develop. And these tools were the parasites, So Young concluded. If the myths are true, yes. But surely they're just stories. I don't think they're stories, Hyun-woo said. I think they're suppressed memories. Every time your people remember the truth about the gardeners, the parasites make you forget again. That evening, as Aqualen struggled to maintain her clarity of thought, the humans realized the scope of what they were facing. The entire galaxy was under the control of ancient biological agents designed to prevent technological advancement. And they were the only ones who knew the truth, protected by their paranoid human habit of filtering everything they consumed. The question now was, what could they do about it? The changes in the alien colonists happened faster than anyone expected. Within days of Aqualen's warning, the effects of the activated parasites became impossible to ignore. Silthara, who had been the colony's most skilled engineer, stood staring at a crystal communication array she had built herself just weeks before. Her normally confident bearing was replaced by confusion and frustration. I know I created this device, she said to Hyun-woo, her crystalline voice filled with distress. I remember working on it, but the knowledge of how it functions is simply gone. Tom Dar was having similar problems. The massive stone bridges he had constructed were beyond his current understanding. When a younger Rokari asked him to explain the anti-gravity principles used in the Foundation, he could only shake his head helplessly. "The knowledge feels like it's behind a wall in my mind," he told the humans. "I can sense it's there, but I cannot reach it." Most disturbing was what happened to the Nethys. Their complex philosophical and mathematical concepts, which had impressed even human scholars, were dissolving from their collective memory. Aqualene could no longer perform the advanced medical procedures she had known since childhood. But the memory loss was not the worst part. As the parasites became more active, the aliens began showing signs of hostility toward the humans. "Why do you not drink the rain?" asked a young Velani whose crystals had grown darker in recent days. "Why do you separate yourselves from the natural gifts of this world?" "It's unnatural," added a Rokari worker who had been friendly before. "You refuse the symbiosis that brings harmony to all life." Yunji noticed the change in their language. First, "They're not speaking like individuals anymore," she observed to the research team. "Listen to how they phrase things. They're starting to sound like they share the same thoughts." She was right. The aliens had begun speaking in similar patterns, using the same words and expressions. Their individual personalities were being subsumed into something larger and more uniform. Jinho's electromagnetic readings showed why. The parasite networks in their brains are synchronizing. They're not just thinking more alike, they're literally sharing thoughts through the organisms. "Like a hive mind," So Young said grimly. "Not quite, but moving in that direction. The parasites are creating neural links between the host species." The situation grew more dangerous when the aliens began actively trying to prevent the humans from using their filtration systems. "The water treatment facility you built is disrupting the natural harmony of the colony," Silthera announced during what had become a tense colony meeting. "It must be shut down. We need clean water to stay healthy," Hyanwu replied carefully. "The Maobe rain provides all the cleansing necessary," Tomdar said. "Your artificial purification is an insult to the gifts of nature." "You're speaking like the parasites want you to speak," Yunji said boldly. "This isn't really you talking." The alien colonists turned to look at her with expressions that were disturbingly similar across all three species. "We speak with clarity that you lack," Aqualene said, but her voice had lost its warmth. "Your isolation from the symbiotic network makes you confused and dangerous." That night, the humans discovered that their laboratory had been sabotaged. Someone had tried to destroy their microscopes and data storage devices. "They're trying to stop us from studying the parasites," So Young said, surveying the damage. "The organisms must see our research as a threat." "Can we repair the equipment?" Hyun-woo asked. "Most of it, yes. But we need to be more careful. The aliens aren't acting like themselves anymore. How long before they try to force us to drink unfiltered water?" Jinho wondered. They didn't have to wait long to find out. The next morning, a group of aliens approached the human quarters with containers of rainwater. "We bring you the gift of symbiosis," announced a Villani whose crystals pulsed with strange, new patterns. "You will drink and join the harmony." "Thank you, but we prefer our filtered water," Hyun-woo said politely. That was not a request, Tomdar said, stepping forward with several other Rokari. You will drink the pure rain and end your unnatural separation. The humans backed into their laboratory and sealed the door. Through the windows, they could see more aliens gathering outside, all carrying containers of untreated rainwater. They're going to try to force it on us, Yunji said. The parasites are driving them to spread the infection. Infection, So Young repeated. That's exactly what this is. The parasites want to infect every thinking being in the galaxy. But why? Hyunwoo asked. What's the ultimate goal? Control, Jinho said, checking his readings of the quantum communication array. Look at this. The array isn't just broadcasting to other star systems anymore. It's receiving signals too. Receiving from where? I'm not sure. But the signals are incredibly complex. They look like instructions of some kind. Yunji studied the data patterns on Jinho's screen. Instructions for what? For the parasites. These signals are telling them what to do, when to activate, which memories to suppress. So someone is still controlling the system, Hyunwoo realized. The gardeners, or their technology, is still active somewhere. Outside, the crowd of aliens had grown larger. They had surrounded the human quarters and were chanting in unison, something that none of their species had ever done before. Join the harmony, they repeated. Accept the gift. End the separation. We need to get out of here, So Young said. If they force that water on us, we'll lose our immunity to the parasites. Where can we go? Yunji asked. They control the entire colony now. Hyunwoo was studying the building blueprints. The maintenance tunnels. We can use them to reach the communication array. What good will that do? If the array is receiving control signals for the parasites, maybe we can use it to send a counter signal. Warn the other human colonies about what's happening. They gathered their essential equipment and prepared to make their escape through the maintenance tunnels. But as they were about to leave, Aqualen appeared at their laboratory window for a moment. Her eyes seemed clear and focused, more like her old self. "Help me," she whispered. "They're making us forget who we are. The symbionts are taking over our minds, and we can't stop them." "Aqualen, can you fight the parasite control?" So Young asked urgently. "For short periods, yes. But it's getting harder. They're integrating deeper into our neural networks. Soon we won't be individuals anymore, just parts of a larger organism. How can we help you?" "Stop the signal. Whatever is controlling the symbionts, you have to cut it off. You're the only ones who can, because you're the only ones who are still free." Before she could say more, Aqualen's expression changed back to the blank uniformity that had taken over the other aliens. She rejoined the chanting crowd outside. "Time to go," Hyunwoo said. They slipped into the maintenance tunnels just as the aliens began trying to break down their laboratory door. Behind them, they could hear the sound of their equipment being destroyed and their water filtration system being smashed. The parasites were eliminating any threat to their control. The humans were now the only free minds left on Kepler 442b, and they were running out of places to hide. But they still had their knowledge, their equipment, and their stubborn human refusal to accept things as they were. The fight for the galaxy's freedom had begun. The maintenance tunnels beneath New Haven were dark, cramped, and filled with the sound of dripping water. The four humans crawled through the narrow spaces, carrying what equipment they could salvage from their destroyed laboratory. How much? Further to the communication array? Yunji whispered. About half a kilometer, Jin-Ho replied, checking his handheld scanner. But there are alien patrol groups above us. They're searching the entire colony. They could hear footsteps and voices through the tunnel ceiling as infected aliens hunted for them. The parasites were driving their hosts to find and convert the last free minds on the planet. When they finally reached the communication facility, Hyunwoo carefully opened the access hatch and peered out. The building was dark and appeared empty, but they could see groups of aliens moving past the windows with containers of rainwater. They're still trying to find us, So Young observed. The parasites won't stop until everyone is infected. They slipped into the communication center and began setting up their equipment. Jin-Ho immediately started analyzing the quantum array's incoming signals, while the others worked on understanding how the parasite control system functioned. The control signals are incredibly sophisticated, Jin-Ho reported. They're not just random electromagnetic patterns. Someone or something is actively managing billions of parasites across multiple star systems. Can you trace where the signals are coming from? Hyunwoo asked. I'm trying, but the source keeps shifting. It's like the controller is moving between different relay stations. So Young had been working with the microscopic samples they had saved. I think I understand how to disrupt the parasites. They're vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies, not the ones that activate them, but others that interfere with their neural networks. Can we broadcast those frequencies through the quantum array? Yunji asked. Maybe, but we'd need a lot more power than this single array can provide. Hyunwoo studied the technical specifications of the communication system. What if we don't try to overpower the control signals? What if we hijack them instead? What do you mean? The parasites are receiving instructions through the quantum network. If we can modify those instructions, we might be able to turn the system against itself. They worked through the night, trying to understand the complex biological control system while staying hidden from the infected colonists searching for them. Every few hours, they could hear aliens breaking into buildings, searching for any humans who might be hiding. We need help, Yunji said during a brief rest period. We can't fight this alone. Help from who? Everyone else is infected, Jin-Ho pointed out. Not everyone. Aqualen showed brief moments of clarity yesterday. Maybe some of the aliens can still fight the parasite control. So Young looked up from her work. That's actually a good point. The parasites need time to fully integrate with their hosts' nervous systems. Recent infections might still be resistible. How can we find aliens who are still partially free? Hyunwoo asked. We broadcast a signal that disrupts parasite activity temporarily, So Young suggested. Anyone who can resist the control will have a window of clarity. They spent several hours modifying the quantum array to broadcast So Young's disruption frequency. When they activated it, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout New Haven, infected aliens suddenly stopped their coordinated activities and looked around in confusion. Some began calling out for help, while others started destroying the rainwater containers they had been carrying. Within minutes, a small group of aliens approached the communication building. Unlike the others, they moved independently and spoke with their own voices. "Humans," called a young Vailani. "We know. You're in there. Please, we need your help." Cautiously, the humans opened the building's door. Outside stood about a dozen aliens from all three species, their eyes clear and focused. "The disruption frequency worked," said a Rokari engineer named Bomsu. "For the first time in days, I can think clearly." "How long will it last?" Hyun-woo asked. "Not long," admitted a Nethys healer called Name Ri. "I can already feel the symbionts trying to regain control." "Maybe an hour at most." "Then we need to work fast," Yoonji said. "We think we can free all of you permanently, but we need help to build a planet-wide system." "What kind of system?" Bomsu asked. Hyun-woo pulled out his preliminary designs. "Atmospheric. Processors that can neutralize the parasites in the rain before they reach the ground. If we can stop new infections and disrupt the existing ones, the parasites should die off naturally." "That would require massive engineering work," Namri said. "We'd need to build installations across the entire planet. Can it be done?" So Young asked. "If we work together, yes," Bomsu replied. "But the infected colonists will try to stop us. The parasites see this as an existential threat." "How many aliens do you think can resist the control?" Jin-ho asked. "Not many," Namri admitted. "Most of our people have been fully integrated. We're among the few who were infected recently enough to fight back. They quickly organized their resistance. The free aliens would help build and install the atmospheric processors while the humans worked on perfecting the parasite disruption technology. They had perhaps days before the control signals adapted to their interference. Working in small, hidden groups, they began constructing the devices needed to purify an entire planet's atmosphere. It was the largest engineering project any of them had ever attempted, and they had to do it while avoiding detection by the infected majority. "We're trying to save a civilization that's actively fighting against being saved," Yoonji observed as they installed their first processor. "That's the worst part about parasitic control," So Young replied. "The victims defend their parasites because they can't recognize them as threats. As they worked, they discovered that the parasites were adapting faster than expected. The control signals grew stronger and the periods of clarity for the infected aliens grew shorter. "We're running out of time," Bomsu warned. "I can feel the symbionts regaining strength. Soon we won't be able to resist them at all." "How many processors do we have working?" Hyun-woo asked. 12 out of the 50 we need for global coverage," Jin-ho reported. "Is that enough to make a difference?" "It might be enough to clear the atmosphere in localized areas. If we can create safe zones where the rain is clean, we might be able to free more allies." They activated their partial network of atmospheric processors and watched the sky above New Haven begin to change. The rain that fell in the areas covered by their devices was clear and pure, free of the microscopic parasites that had controlled galactic civilization for millennia. But their celebration was short-lived. The infected aliens had detected their activities and were converging on their location with a determination that was both frightening and sad. "They're coming," Namri warned. "Hundreds of them, carrying containers of infected rainwater. They mean to force it on all of us." The final battle for Kepler 442b was about to begin, and the humans were far from certain they could win. The atmospheric processors hummed to life across New Haven as clean rain began falling for the first time in thousands of years. The effect was immediate and profound. Aliens who had been under parasite control for days suddenly stopped their coordinated movements and looked around in confusion. Silthara was among the first to recover. The Veilani leader stumbled as her crystal body lost the rigid posture that had marked her infected state. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical quality that had been absent for days. What happened to me?" she asked, touching her crystalline formations as if seeing them for the first time. "I remember being angry with you humans, but I can't remember why." "The parasites in your nervous system," So Young explained quickly. "They were controlling your thoughts and actions. Our atmospheric processors are neutralizing them." "Parasites?" Silthara's crystal body chimed with distress. "But the neural symbionts have been part of us for generations. They help us think and remember." "That's what they made you believe," Yunji said. "But they were actually preventing you from advancing technologically. Every few thousand years, they activate and make entire civilizations forget their most important discoveries." As more aliens recovered their clarity, the scope of the revelation became clear. Tomdar remembered engineering principles that his people had somehow lost centuries ago. Aqualen recalled medical techniques that were far more advanced than anything currently practiced by the Nethys. "I remember now," Aqualen said, her large eyes wide with shock. "My grandmother told me stories about the old knowledge, technologies we used to have but somehow abandoned. I thought they were just myths." "They weren't myths," Hyunwoo said. "They were suppressed memories. The parasites made your people forget whenever you got too advanced." Jin-Ho had been monitoring the quantum communication array throughout the cleansing process. "I'm picking up signals from other star systems," he reported. "It looks like our atmospheric processors aren't just working locally. The quantum array is broadcasting the purification frequency to other worlds." "You mean we're freeing aliens on other planets, too?" Bomsu asked. "That's exactly what I mean. Every human colony in the galaxy uses quantum communication arrays. If they can replicate our purification signal..." Yunji was already working at the communication console. "I'm sending the technical specifications for our atmospheric processors to every human settlement in known space. If they can build these systems quickly enough, we might be able to free the entire galaxy." The response was immediate. Human colonies throughout the galaxy began reporting similar discoveries: microscopic parasites in rainwater that controlled alien populations. Earth's engineering corps mobilized immediately, launching the largest construction project in human history. "Look at this," Jin-Ho said, showing them incoming data. "The Centauri colonies are already building atmospheric processors. The Europa Research Station is adapting our designs for ice moon environments. Even the frontier settlements are jury-rigging. Purification systems. How are the aliens reacting?" So Young asked. Mixed responses. Some are welcoming the liberation. Others are resisting it. But as more individuals recover their memories, support is growing. On Kepler 442b, the transformation was remarkable. As clean rain continued to fall, aliens throughout the colony began, remembering technologies and knowledge that had been lost for centuries. The Veilani recalled how to build interstellar communication networks that operated faster than light. The Rokari remembered engineering techniques that allowed them to manipulate gravity and space-time. The Nethys rediscovered philosophical and mathematical concepts that revolutionized their understanding of the universe. "This is incredible," Silthera said, examining blueprints that had spontaneously appeared in her recovered memories. "We used to have crystal ships that could travel between dimensions. How did we ever forget something so important?" "Because the parasites made you forget every time you rediscovered it," Hyunwoo explained. "They've been keeping your civilizations in a cycle of advancement and regression for millions of years." "But why?" Tomdar asked. "What was the purpose?" Yunji had been analyzing the historical data as more aliens recovered their memories. "I think it was a containment system. Someone, probably an ancient civilization that called themselves the Gardeners, created the parasites to prevent younger species from developing technologies that might threaten galactic stability. Or threaten them," So Young added. "Maybe. They wanted to stay the dominant power in the galaxy." "Where are they now?" Namri asked. "We don't know. The control signals we've been detecting could be automated systems, or they could be coming from hidden stations. But the important thing is that we're breaking their control." Reports continued to flow in from across the galaxy. Human settlements were successfully building atmospheric processors on dozens of worlds. As each planet was cleansed, the aliens there began recovering lost memories and technologies. The Andromedans remembered how to build ships that traveled through folded space. The Tau Ceti civilization recalled genetic engineering techniques that could terraform planets in decades instead of centuries. The Vega colonies rediscovered quantum computing systems that operated at the subatomic level. "It's like watching the galaxy wake up from a long sleep," Yunji observed. But not everyone welcomed the awakening. Some alien leaders, particularly those who had been under parasite control for their entire lives, viewed the liberation as an invasion. "The humans are destroying the natural order," declared a Vailani elder from another star system during a quantum communication session. "The neural symbionts have guided us for thousands of generations. To remove them is to lose our spiritual connection to the universe." "That's the parasites talking," Silthera replied firmly. "I've lived both ways now, and I can tell you that freedom feels very different from control." "You've been infected by human thinking patterns," the elder accused. "Your crystal formations have become chaotic and unpredictable." "My crystal formations have become my own," Silthera shot back. "For the first time in my life, they reflect my individual thoughts instead of the collective will of the parasites." Similar arguments were taking place throughout the galaxy as liberated aliens tried to convince their still infected relatives and colleagues. But the tide was clearly turning. Each day, more atmospheric processors came online, and more civilizations joined the growing alliance of free worlds. "We're getting reports from the Outer Rim territories," Jinho announced. "Even the most remote colonies are successfully building purification systems. Humanity's paranoid engineering practices are spreading faster than any previous technology in galactic history." "That's because they work," Hyunwoo said with satisfaction. "Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. Just filter everything and trust nothing." 6 months after the first atmospheric processor came online on Kepler 442b, nearly half the galaxy had been freed from parasite control. The liberated civilizations were sharing technologies and knowledge at an unprecedented rate, creating innovations that surpassed anything they had achieved individually. "We're entering a new age," Aqua Len declared during a colony council meeting. "For the first time in galactic history, multiple species are advancing together instead of being held back by artificial limitations. And it all started because humans were too paranoid to drink rainwater without filtering it first," Tomdar added with amusement. "Sometimes paranoia pays off," So Young said. "Sometimes the thing that everyone tells you is harmless really is dangerous. Sometimes it's worth questioning why something seems too good to be true." The galaxy was changing, and humanity had become its unlikely liberator, not through conquest or force, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to accept things the way they had always been. The age of parasite control was ending, and the age of true galactic civilization was about to begin. 1 year after the first atmospheric processor activated on Kepler 442b, New Haven had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The colony now housed the most advanced multi-species research facility ever created, where liberated civilizations worked together to rebuild the knowledge that had been stolen from them over millennia. Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the new Central Research Tower, watching Vailani crystal ships dock alongside Rokari gravity manipulators and Nethys quantum submarines. The sight still amazed him. Technologies that had been forgotten for thousands of years were now being improved and combined in ways that surpassed their original designs. "The integration is proceeding faster than we projected," reported So Young, joining him at the window. She now directed the Galactic Health Initiative, ensuring that no world would ever again fall victim to parasitic control. "We've established monitoring stations on over 3,000 worlds, and the parasite detection systems are working perfectly. Any signs of reinfection?" Hyunwoo asked. "None. Once the atmospheric processors clear a planet, it stays clear. The parasites can't survive in properly filtered environments." Jinho approached with his latest communication reports. As the director of the new Galactic Communication Network, he coordinated the flow of information between liberated worlds. "We've received confirmation from the Andromeda expedition. They've successfully purified 17 worlds in that galaxy, and they're finding the same parasite systems we discovered here. So it's not just our galaxy that was affected," Hyunwoo observed. "Apparently not. The control system was much larger than we initially thought. But the good news is that our purification technology works everywhere." Yoonji had become the galaxy's leading expert on the ancient Gardener civilization. Her research into parasite archaeology had revealed the scope of the conspiracy that had controlled galactic development for millions of years. I've been analyzing data from the liberated worlds, she said, joining the group. The pattern is consistent across all star systems. Every few thousand years, civilizations would reach a certain technological threshold, then mysteriously regress. The cycle has been repeating for at least 10 million years. Any idea who the gardeners were? So Young asked. I have a theory, but you're not going to like it. I think they were us. The three humans stared at her. What do you mean, us? Hyun-woo asked. Not humans specifically, but humanoid species. The genetic markers in the parasite suggest they were created by beings with DNA similar to ours. I think an ancient humanoid civilization decided that younger species needed to be controlled for their own good. So they created a galaxy-wide system to keep everyone else from advancing, Jin-ho said grimly. Exactly. And it worked perfectly until humans came along with their paranoid water filtration habits. The irony was not lost on any of them. Humanity's reputation for over-engineering and excessive caution had accidentally freed the galaxy from millions of years of artificial limitation. Speaking of paranoid habits, So Young said, have you seen what the liberated species are doing now? She led them to another observation window, where they could see construction crews working on massive new projects. Every species was now building their own filtration and purification systems, not just for water, but for air, food, and even the electromagnetic spectrum. They've all developed their own versions of human paranoia, Yoonji observed with amusement. The Velani are filtering starlight before it reaches their crystal formations. The Rokari are purifying their building materials at the molecular level. The Nethys are cleaning their ocean currents with quantum-scale processors. Can you blame them? Hyun-woo asked. After discovering they've been controlled for thousands of years, everyone wants to make sure it never happens again. The transformation went beyond technology. The liberated civilizations were displaying creativity and innovation that had been suppressed for millennia. Velani artists were creating crystal symphonies that resonated across multiple dimensions. Rokari philosophers were developing mathematical concepts that redefined the understanding of space and time. Nethys poets were writing epic cycles that captured the emotional journey from enslavement to freedom. The cultural renaissance is as impressive as the technological one, Yoonji noted. It's like watching entire civilizations remember how to dream. A soft chime announced an incoming priority message. Jin-ho activated the holographic display, revealing the image of Captain Min-jun Park, commander of the deep space exploration vessel Prometheus. New Haven Colony, this is Captain Park reporting from the Galactic Rim. We've made an extraordinary discovery. Go ahead, Captain, Jin-ho replied. We found them, the gardeners. Or rather, we found what's left of them. The image changed to show a massive derelict structure floating in the void between galaxies. It was clearly artificial, but unlike any architecture the liberated species had developed. It's a control station, Captain Park continued. Completely automated and still functional after millions of years. It's been sending parasite control signals to every galaxy in the local cluster. Is it still active? Hyun-woo asked. Yes, but we think we can shut it down. The station's defenses are designed to stop ships and weapons, not atmospheric processors. If we can get close enough, we can purify the entire structure. Do it, So Young said immediately. Make sure that control system can never be reactivated. Over. The following days, they watched through quantum communication as the Prometheus approached the ancient station. The structure was vast, larger than some moons, and covered with organic-looking protrusions that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The entire station is alive, Captain Park reported. It's not just a machine. It's a biological organism, designed to manage galactic development. Any sign of the original gardeners? Yunji asked. None. The biological records suggest they died out millions of years ago, but they programmed their control organism to continue their work indefinitely. Even in death, they tried to control the future, Hyunwoo said quietly. The Prometheus successfully deployed its atmospheric processors throughout the control station. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The bioluminescent patterns flickered and went dark as the parasitic control systems died. Across multiple galaxies, the last vestiges of Gardner influence finally ended. Signal confirmed, Captain Park announced. The station is dead. All parasite control networks have been permanently disabled. The celebration across the liberated worlds was unprecedented. For the first time in galactic history, every thinking species was truly free to develop without artificial limitations. What happens now? So Young asked as they watched the victory celebrations in New Haven's Central Plaza. Now we find out what we're really capable of, Hyunwoo replied. For the first time ever, multiple species can advance together without being reset every few thousand years. And we make sure it never happens again, Yunji added. The Galactic Council is already working on safeguards to prevent any future attempts at biological control. Jinho smiled as he watched young beings from dozens of species working together on projects that would have been impossible under parasite control. You know what the best part is? All of this started because humans were too stubborn to drink unfiltered rainwater. Sometimes stubbornness is exactly what the universe needs, So Young observed. Sometimes the most important discoveries come from refusing to accept that things have to be the way they've always been. Years later, when historians wrote about the Great Liberation, they would marvel at how simple it had been in the end. No grand battles, no heroic sacrifices, no revolutionary technologies, just basic engineering principles applied with typical human paranoia. The galaxy had been freed by beings who filtered everything, questioned everything, and trusted nothing, at face value. In a universe where rain had been considered the purest gift of nature, humans had been the only species stubborn enough to say, let's clean it anyway, just to be safe. And that stubbornness had changed everything. The age of artificial limitation was over. The age of true galactic civilization had begun. And at its heart was a simple truth that humans had always known. When in doubt, filter it first and ask questions later. Some instincts, it turned out, were worth keeping no matter how far you traveled from home. Some paranoia was worth maintaining no matter how peaceful the universe seemed, because sometimes the most dangerous threats were the ones that everyone told you were perfectly safe. The rain still fell on New Haven, but now it was truly pure, cleaned by human engineering and free from ancient lies. And in that clean rain, The future of the galaxy was washing away the past and flowing toward something genuinely new. The humans had done what they did best. They had refused to trust, insisted on filtering everything, and accidentally saved everyone. It was, they agreed, a very human way to liberate a galaxy.